Tonight we find ourselves not in the comfort of your bedroom, but on the edge of an ancient world, standing on a beach of black volcanic sand that still holds the day's warmth. The air is thick with the salt of the Pacific and the heavy scent of blooming frangipani. Before you, an ocean of impossible darkness stretches out, each wave crashing with a hush that sounds like a secret being told and retold. You are here for a reason, a purpose that prickles on your skin like the coming storm you can feel in the air. You have chosen this, or perhaps it has chosen you, the gentle process of the Polynesian tattoo, the tatau. But let's be clear from the start. This is not a walk-in parlor with sterile needles and a buzzing gun. This is a days-long ritual of transformation, a test of spirit and flesh where the stenciling alone is a profound art, and you probably won't survive this with your modern sensibilities intact. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now, dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge along the shoreline, the fine black grit finding its way between your toes, a gritty reminder of the very real, very physical world you're in. Your heart is a frantic drum against your ribs, a rhythm entirely out of sync with the slow, patient breath of the ocean. This isn't just a beach, it's a threshold. Every sense is heightened. You taste the salt on your lips, you feel the humid air cling to your skin like a second layer, and you hear the low, murmured conversations of the village at your back, a community that is about to become an intimate part of your ordeal. The decision that brought you here feels both a lifetime away and as immediate as the next wave. You weren't just picking a design from a wall. You were seeking an identity, a story to be woven into your very skin, a connection to a lineage that stretches back across this vast ocean. Historians still argue whether the great Polynesian migrations were deliberate voyages of discovery or desperate flights from resource scarcity. But standing here, feeling the purposeful energy of this place, it's hard to believe it was anything but intentional. You see a figure seated near a cluster of smooth, wave-worn rocks, his silhouette a study in stillness against the moving water. This is the two-fuger, the master. He isn't looking at you, not yet. His gaze is on the horizon, as if reading some final instruction from the dying light. The tools of his trade lie on a bark cloth beside him, a small wooden mallet, several combs with rows of sharpened bone teeth, and pots of what you know will become the indelible ink. It's a simple, almost primitive kit. There are no consent forms, no numbing cream, no aftercare leaflets. There is only the understanding that you are about to be remade. The specific resonance of the tapping mallet on the tattoo comb could align with the Earth's own frequency, promoting a trance state, a nice thought to cling to when the pain begins, I'm sure. You take another step, and the master finally turns his head. His eyes don't assess your body, they seem to look straight through your skin, into the churning mess of your spirit. He gives a slow, almost imperceptible nod. It is not a greeting. It is an acknowledgement. The process has already begun, and the first, most crucial stage, the stenciling, is about to unfold not with ink, but with intention. The master, the two-fuger, doesn't beckon you closer with a gesture. His silence is the command, and you find your feet moving you forward across the warm sand until you are standing before him. He is older than you first thought, his own skin a living parchment covered in the deep, blue-black history of his own lineage, each swirl and geometric pattern speaking of a life you can only begin to imagine. His hands, resting on his knees, are broad and strong, the fingers calloused from a lifetime of holding not just tools, but the fate of others. He doesn't speak your language, and you don't speak his, but in this moment, you understand that language is the most superfluous of human inventions. The air around him crackles with a quiet authority that has nothing to do with ego and everything to do with a generational mastery. You feel like a blank page being presented to a master scribe, and the sudden, terrifying realization hits you. He can see right through the persona you've spent your whole life constructing. He's not looking at your job title, your social media profile, or your bank account. He's assessing the raw material of your soul, its strengths, its weaknesses, its capacity to endure what comes next. He reaches out, not for his tools, but towards you. His movement is slow, deliberate, devoid of any suddenness that might startle you. His fingertips, rough as weathered stone, make contact with your bare arm. It's not a medical examination, it's a reading. He's tracing the lines of your muscles, the curve of your shoulder, the topography of your bones beneath the skin. He is learning the landscape of the canvas he is about to work upon. This is the true beginning of the stenciling process, a physical and spiritual cartography. A mainstream historical fact you might recall is that Captain James Cook and his crew were the first Europeans to document the Polynesian tattoo, coining the word tattoo from the Tahitian tatau in the late 18th century. But what Cook saw as mere body decoration was, and is, a complex system of identity, marking everything from social status and genealogy to personal achievements. The tufuga before you is the living embodiment of that tradition, a far cry from the sailors who appropriated the art and brought it back to the docks of London as a curiosity. He leans back, his dark eyes holding yours. The assessment is over. He has measured your physical form, but more importantly, he has taken the measure of your mana, your spiritual power. He sees the fear, and he accepts it. He sees the doubt, and he dismisses it not with judgment, but with a calm assurance that suggests doubt is simply a part of the raw material, like a knot in a piece of wood that must be worked around with skill. He gives a single, slow nod. It is the final permission. The question of your readiness has been answered not by you, but by him. You are ready because he says you are. Oral traditions suggest a truly gifted tufuga could diagnose illness or see a person's future simply by reading the energy of their skin during this initial touch. A handy skill, really, saving on medical bills and psychic hotline fees. He turns slightly, his attention shifting to a small, smooth gourd and a flat stone palette. The time for assessment is over. The time for creation is about to begin, starting with the alchemy of making the ink that will forever live under your skin. His hands, those instruments of silent judgment, now move to the task of creation. From a small, carefully woven basket, he produces a ceramic pot blackened by soot and a smaller container of a thick, dark oil. This is the genesis of the ink, the lama or pau, the substance that will carry the story into your skin. He pours a mound of the fine, velvety black soot onto the stone palette. It's not just any carbon, it's the collected residue from the burning of the kukui nut, the candlenut tree, a plant steeped in Polynesian significance, used for everything from light to medicine. The soot itself is considered tapu, sacred, holding within its particles the essence of fire and transformation. You watch, mesmerized, as he adds the oil, drop by careful drop, beginning to mix them together with a smooth, oval-shaped stone pestle. The sound is a soft, grinding whisper, a rhythmic scrape that blends with the shushing waves, a precursor to the rhythm that will soon dominate your entire existence. The mixture slowly thickens into a glossy, pitch-black paste, its consistency crucial. Too thin and it will bleed under the skin, too thick and it will not penetrate deeply enough. This is not a mass-produced ink. This is a bespoke potion, mixed for you and you alone. He works with an economy of motion that speaks of 1,000 such preparations. There's no wasted effort, no second guess. Each circular grind of the pestle is a meditation. You find yourself holding your breath, caught in the ritual of it. The air fills with a new scent, the rich, slightly acrid smell of the burnt nut oil, a smell that you know you will forever associate with this moment of suspended anticipation. Historians still argue whether the specific recipes for this ink, varying from island group to island group, were developed through rigorous trial and error or were considered divine revelations granted to the first two fuga? Was it chemistry or divinity that discovered that the kukui nutsoot provided the perfect, most stable black pigment, one that would age to an elegant blue-green undertone deep within the skin over a lifetime? Watching him, the line between science and spirit seems beautifully, irrevocably blurred. He tests the ink's viscosity, rubbing a small amount between his thumb and forefinger, his head tilted in critical appraisal. Satisfied, he sets the pestle down. The ink is ready. But the preparation is not yet complete. He reaches for his au, the tattoo comb. The one he selects has a bone-toothed head, lashed with fine thread to a wooden handle. The teeth, you notice with a lurch in your stomach, are not uniform. They are arranged in specific patterns, lines, curves, clusters, that will determine the marks left on your skin. This is the business end of the entire operation. Fringe belief held by some early European observers was that these bone teeth were often dipped in poisonous substances or even the decomposing flesh of enemies to cause infection and certain death. The reality is far more practical, and yet, in its own way, more intimidating. The tools are scrupulously cleaned, often with seawater and abrasive leaves, and their power lies not in poison, but in their perfect, honed sharpness and the sacred intention behind them. He holds the au over the small, smoky flame of an oil lamp, not to sterilize it in the modern sense, but to cleanse it, to make it ready for its sacred work. The stage is now fully set. The ink is mixed, the tool is prepared, and your skin awaits its touch. He gestures for you to assume your position, not on a chair or a table, but on the mat of woven pandanus leaves spread over the sand. You settle yourself, the coarse fibers pressing into your legs, grounding you in a way a sterile clinic table never could. The two fuga shifts closer, his presence now the entire circumference of your world. He dips the tips of his fingers into a small bowl of water, then into the freshly made ink, coating them in the glossy black paste. He holds his hand aloft for a moment, not a single drop falling, a testament to his control. Then, his touch lands on your back. It is cool at first, a stark contrast to your feverish skin, but it's the pressure that steals your breath. This is it. The first touch of the design. His fingers are not tracing a pre-drawn stencil on paper, they are the stencil. He paints directly onto your skin with the ink itself, using the flat of his fingers and the edge of his thumb to lay down the broad, guiding lines of what will become your permanent signature. You feel the fluid movements of his hand, the sure, unerring sweeps that curve along your shoulder blade, the precise dots that mark key intersections, the long, confident lines that run parallel to your spine. He is not just drawing, he is mapping. He is charting a course across the territory of your body, aligning the patterns with the flow of your muscles and the structure of your bones beneath. The design is emerging from his mind directly onto your skin, a fluid, living blueprint. There are no erasers, no second chances. Each mark is a commitment. You can feel the weight of his concentration, a tangible force in the space between you. He is not merely replicating a pattern from a book. He is interpreting your lineage, your promised future, and the spirit he read in you just moments ago, translating it all into a visual language of symbols. A mainstream historical fact is that these patterns, while often grouped under the term Polynesian tattoo, vary dramatically from island to island. The Marquesan motifs are dense and geometric, filling entire body parts, while the Maori Moko of New Zealand features unique spiral forms carved into the face, each curve signifying specific aspects of one's ancestry. His fingers move to a new section, and you realize he is incorporating a series of shark teeth patterns along your deltoid. The shark, a powerful symbol of protection and adaptability in Polynesian navigation lore. He adds a series of anata, the human figures, their simplified forms linking arms in a procession that seems to dance across your skin. Historians still argue whether these human figures always represent specific ancestors or can also symbolize the community of the living who support the wearer. As the ink cools and begins to dry slightly on your skin, it tightens, a faint, phantom sensation of the permanence to come. Some believe a master tufuga could imbue the wet ink with a whispered prayer or a fragment of a sacred chant as he applied it, sealing its spiritual power into the very paste before the needle ever struck. He pauses, leaning back to observe his work. The first part of the stencil is complete. You are now a partially written document, a scroll of black lines waiting for the final, painful authorship of the bone comb. He signals for you to lean forward, to present the inked landscape of your back fully. The air feels cool on the wet design, a temporary tattoo of immense significance. He picks up the tattoo comb, its bone teeth now dark with the same ink that stains his fingers and paints your skin. In his other hand, he takes up the saw, the small, lightweight mallet. He doesn't look at you for reassurance. Your consent was given in the moment you sat before him. He positions the teeth of the comb at the starting point of a long, guiding line he painted along your spine. There is a final, breathless pause, a silence so profound you can hear the hiss of a retreating wave on the sand. Then, he moves. The first tap is a revelation. It is not the sharp, singular sting of a modern needle you might have braced for. It is a deep, resonant thud that vibrates through your entire skeleton. It is a sensation of pressure and puncture combined, a blunt force that drives the pigment-laden teeth into your skin. The pain is immediate and electric, a bright, white-hot star that blooms at the point of impact and sends shockwaves radiating outwards. It is far more visceral, more primordial than you ever imagined. Before your brain can even fully process the first strike, the second one lands, a precise, rhythmic counterpoint to the first. Tap, thud, tap, thud. The mallet in his hand is a metronome of suffering, each blow a deliberate, measured act of creation through destruction. Your body seizes up, every muscle tensing in a unified, biological protest. You grit your teeth, a low groan escaping your lips that is instantly swallowed by the ambient night sounds. The tufuga does not pause. His rhythm is relentless, a steady, 1-2 beat that begins to sync, horrifyingly, with the pounding of your own heart. The ink on the surface is now being driven beneath it, the hand-drawn stencil becoming a permanent part of your cellular structure. This is the brutal alchemy of the tattoo. The temporary becomes eternal through pain. The specific frequency of the tapping could fracture the pigment particles into a size that the immune system's macrophages couldn't easily remove, thus ensuring the tattoo's permanence, a sort of accidental, biological lock-in. Whether that's true or not, the effect is undeniable. With every tap, the stencil is becoming less of a drawing on you and more of a part of you. The initial, shocking pain begins to mutate. It doesn't lessen, but it spreads, becoming a burning ache that settles deep into the muscle. The individual taps start to blur into a continuous, searing sensation. You feel a trickle of warmth, a mix of blood and excess ink, begin a slow, meandering path down your side. The smell changes, too. The scent of the nut oil is now underscored by the coppery tang of your own blood, mixing with the salt air. This is the mix of blood and ocean, the literal and symbolic spill of your life onto the shore of this ritual. He works a small section, completing a series of lines before stopping to wipe away the bloody ink with a piece of damp bark cloth, checking his work against the original painted guide. The skin beneath is already raised, angry, and inflamed. The stencil is no longer just a visual guide, it is a roadmap of pain, and he is navigating its every contour with brutal, unwavering precision. The rhythmic assault continues, a brutal percussion that becomes the new, inescapable tempo of your existence. Tap, thud, tap, thud. The initial shock has worn off, replaced by a grinding, all-consuming fire that blankets your entire upper back. You find yourself instinctively trying to match your breathing to the rhythm of his mallet, a desperate, physiological hack to survive the onslaught. Breathe in on the lift, breathe out on the strike. It almost works. For a few moments, the pain becomes a wave you can ride, a terrible crest you can surmount with the exhale. But then he hits a particularly sensitive spot near your spine, and your control shatters, your breath catching in a ragged gasp. The rhythm of the waves, once a soothing backdrop, is now a co-conspirator in this trial, its endless, crashing monotony a mirror of the endless, tapping pain. You are trapped in the space between each impact. The moment the mallet lifts is a fleeting, tantalizing glimpse of relief, instantly obliterated by the next driving puncture. Your world has shrunk to this cycle. The anticipation, the impact, the searing aftermath, and the cruel hope of the next anticipatory pause. Your mind, desperate for an escape, begins to drift. It detaches from the raw nerve endings screaming in your back and floats somewhere above, observing the scene with a strange, clinical distance. You notice the absolute focus on the two-fuger's face, his eyes fixed on the emerging pattern, his entire being poured into the correct angle and depth of every single tap. There is no malice in his actions, only a profound and solemn purpose. Historians still argue whether the rhythmic nature of the work was intentionally designed to induce a trance state, allowing the recipient to dissociate from the pain, or if it was simply the most efficient method for applying the tattoo. Lying here, feeling your consciousness flicker, the line between efficient method and spiritual technique seems wonderfully irrelevant. The sound of the tapping changes subtly as he moves from the fleshy part of your shoulder to an area directly over your scapula, where the bone lies closer to the surface. The thud becomes a sharper, higher-pitched tap, sending jarring vibrations through your frame. Some early European sailors believed the tattoo masters used different coded rhythms to signal secret messages about the recipient's fortitude or status to onlookers. The reality is both simpler and more complex. The rhythm is dictated solely by the master's need for control and the nature of the skin and bone he is working on. He pauses again, wiping away the seepage. You dare to turn your head slightly, your cheek pressed against the rough mat, and you see the blooded cloth. The design is no longer a clean, painted line. It is a raised, weeping, brutalized path being carved into you. The stencil is being made real, one painful, rhythmic tap at a time, and you are learning that the rhythm of the waves is not a lullaby, but the heartbeat of the ordeal itself. As the two-fuger moves to a new panel of the design, working now across the broad plane of your shoulder, your pain-hazed mind begins to focus on the individual marks being scarred into your being. These are not random shapes. Each one is a word, a sentence, a chapter in a story written in a language of skin. The series of interconnected triangles he is meticulously tapping just below your neck, you recognize them as shark teeth, or Niho Mano. In the vast, open ocean the Polynesians navigated, the shark was both a respected predator and a potent guardian. This pattern, now being forever embedded into your skin, is a prayer for protection, a claim of strength and ferocity in the face of life's challenges. It's a piece of armor, but unlike metal, it's one you can never take off. He shifts his position, and the teeth of the AU begin to trace a different, more complex series of motifs. Here, he creates the anata, the stylized human figures. They link together in a continuous, rhythmic line, their simplified forms representing your people, your ancestors, your family, your community. Their placement and orientation matter. Some figures facing upwards might signify ancestors watching over you, while those facing down could represent those who have passed on. Historians still argue whether every single anata in a complex piece corresponds to a specific, named individual, or if they sometimes represent broader concepts like family unity or the community's role in an individual's life. Watching them take form in a trail of blood and ink, you feel the weight of that connection, a literal and figurative linking of arms across generations. Then comes a new symbol, one you hadn't noticed in the initial painted stencil, a series of spearhead shapes, known as tapari or mator. These speak of a warrior's spirit, of courage, and of the ability to provide for your people through hunting and conflict. A mainstream historical fact is that in many Polynesian societies, receiving certain tattoos like the PA for men or the malu for women was a prerequisite for taking on adult responsibilities and roles within the community. You literally had to earn your place, and the skin was the certificate. The symbols themselves hold a latent power, and that a two-fuga could, if he wished, weave a curse into the design by intentionally inverting a key symbol or omitting a crucial connecting element. It's a chilling thought, a reminder of the immense power and trust placed in the hands of the master. But as you watch his unwavering focus, you see no malice, only the solemn duty of a scribe. He is not cursing you, he is building you. He is assembling your identity from a library of ancient symbols, translating the intangible essence of who you are and where you come from into a permanent, physical text on the canvas of your skin. The initial adrenaline that acted as a buffer has long since burned away, leaving behind the raw, unmediated reality of the pain. It is no longer a series of distinct, shocking strikes. It has evolved into a single, continuous, searing entity that has taken up residence in your entire upper body. A deep, throbbing ache has settled into your bones, a constant bass note under the sharper, fiery sting of each new puncture. Your muscles, held in a state of clenched anticipation for what feels like an eternity, are beginning to tremble with fatigue. A persistent, low-grade nausea swells in your gut, a physical protest from a body that cannot understand why it is being systematically, and so artistically, assaulted. This is the physical toll, the stark biological cost of this transformation, and your body is presenting its invoice in a currency of pure sensation. You try to shift your weight minutely, to grant a screaming muscle a moment's reprieve, but the two-fuga places a firm, ink-stained hand on your back, holding you still. The message is clear: movement is not an option. Surrender is the only path. You are a prisoner to the process, and your cell is your own skin. Sweat beads on your forehead and drips onto the mat below, joining the small, dark patches of blood and ink. Your jaw aches from being clenched so tightly, and you have to consciously remind yourself to breathe, to pull air into lungs that seem to have forgotten their purpose. The only frequency you're aware of is the one screaming from every nerve ending in your back. A mainstream historical fact you cling to, a fragile life raft in this sea of agony, is the account of the Maori chief who, upon receiving his facial moko, was expected to suppress all cries of pain, even joking with his companions to demonstrate his courage and mana. The social pressure to endure was, and is, immense. You are not just proving your worth to yourself, you are proving it to the master, to the watching community, and to the ancestors whose marks you are taking on. This thought is both a burden and a strange source of strength. Historians still argue whether the extensive tattooing acted as a sort of controlled trauma, a rite of passage that fundamentally altered a person's psychological state and prepared them for the hardships of leadership and war. As another wave of fire washes over you, the theory feels less like an academic debate and more like a simple, brutal truth. You are being broken down, your old self being systematically dismantled by the relentless, physical toll of the bone comb and the mallet, making space for whatever new person is meant to emerge from this trial. The two-fuga signals a pause, not for your benefit, but to dip his AU back into the pot of ink, replenishing the pigment that has been driven into your skin or wiped away with your blood. He gestures to an assistant you hadn't even noticed, a young man who has been sitting silently in the shadows. The assistant brings forward a coconut shell cup filled with fresh water. You are allowed to sit up, the movement sending fresh, jagged bolts of lightning through your ravaged back. The world swims for a moment, the star-filled sky tilting precariously. You take the cup with trembling hands and drink, the cool water an unimaginable luxury. It is in this moment, as you try to stretch your screaming muscles, that you catch a glimpse of your reflection in a large, still pool of seawater left behind by the retreating tide. The image is distorted, wavering in the dark water, but it is unmistakable. The left side of your back and shoulder is a tapestry of raised, angry welts, but through the inflammation and the smears of blood, the design is clearly emerging. It is no longer a collection of individual symbols, but a cohesive, powerful whole. The shark teeth guard the crest of your shoulder, the procession of anata flows down your arm, and the spearheads create a dynamic border. It is brutal and beautiful in equal measure, a map of pain that is slowly transforming into a shield of identity. You are not looking at a wound, you are looking at a becoming. This glimpse of the whole, even in its raw, unfinished state, is a powerful antidote to the agony. It gives the suffering a purpose, a visual shape that transcends the simple, animal misery of the experience. Historians still argue whether the full visual impact of the completed tattoo was ever revealed to the recipient partway through the process, or if it was meant to be a complete surprise upon the final unveiling. For you, this accidental glimpse is a vital lifeline. Watery reflection was sometimes intentionally used by the tufuga as a tool, allowing the recipient to see their new self through the lens of the ancestral realm, which was often believed to lie beneath the water's surface. You stare at the wavering image, your own face pale and strained above the dark, intricate pattern that now seems to possess a life of its own. It is both alien and deeply familiar, as if this design had always been waiting just beneath your skin, and the tufuga's tools have simply revealed it, scraping away the superficial layer of your old self to expose the true, patterned identity beneath. The assistant takes the empty cup from your hand. The moment of respite is over. You lower yourself back onto the mat, the rough fibers now feeling like a bed of nails against your inflamed skin. But you carry the memory of that reflection with you, a promise of what is to come, a reason to endure the remaining hours. The tufuga resumes his work, and it feels different now, more intense, as if he has passed some unseen threshold in the ritual. He moves to the most sensitive areas yet, the soft flesh near your armpit, the delicate skin over your ribs, the bony prominence of your spine. Each tap of the mallet here is a small, precise explosion of agony that steals the air from your lungs. The fatigue you felt before was a gentle warning. This is the true darkest hour. Your body is a screaming chorus of protest, and your mind, which had found brief refuge in the glimpse of the whole design, is now crumbling under the relentless, focused assault. Doubt, cold and insidious, seeps into the cracks of your resolve. Why did I agree to this? What vanity, what foolishness made me think I could endure it? The grand ideas of identity and lineage feel like abstract, intellectual luxuries, utterly meaningless in the face of this all-consuming, physical reality. You close your eyes, trying to retreat inward, but there is no sanctuary there. The pain has colonized your entire consciousness. The rhythmic tapping, once something you tried to sync your breath with, is now a torturous tool, a monotonous drum counting down the moments of your suffering. The smell of your own blood is stronger now, metallic and thick. The supportive sounds of the ocean and the village feel distant, muffled, as if you are trapped in a silent, burning bubble with only the tufuga and his instruments for company. This is the crucible. This is the point where the old self is not just being reshaped, but being annihilated. A mainstream historical fact you can no longer grasp for comfort is that in some Polynesian traditions, if a person could not endure the pain and failed to complete their tattoo, they were often left with the unfinished marks, a permanent public sign of their failure, a social and spiritual death. The fear of that outcome is now a cold stone in your gut, heavier than the pain itself. The idea that the pain itself was a spiritual entity, a demon that the two-fuger was literally beating out of your body with his mallet. Right now, it feels less like a belief and more like a report from the front lines. Historians still argue whether the psychological breaking point was an unintended side effect of the procedure or an intentional, necessary component of the transformation, a symbolic death that had to precede the rebirth. As a particularly vicious series of taps lands directly on your rib cage, forcing a choked sob from your throat, you feel that breaking point approach. You are hanging on by the thinnest of threads, a thread made of pride, fear, and the fading memory of that reflection in the water. The darkest hour is not about the setting of the sun, it is about the eclipse of your own spirit, and you are not sure if the light will ever return. Just as the darkness feels absolute, a new sound pierces your bubble of solitary suffering. It starts as a low, humming murmur, then coalesces into a chant. You force your eyes open, turning your head slightly on the mat. The villagers, who have been a quiet, peripheral presence, have drawn closer. They are not just watching, they are participating. A group of elders, their own tattoos a testament to survived ordeals, have begun a low, rhythmic hymene, a traditional song. Its melody is not one of pity, but of strength. The words, though you don't understand them, speak of ancestors, of courage, of the ocean's endless resilience. The sound wraps around you, a vocal blanket attempting to smother the screams of your nerves. This is the community's role, and you feel its power immediately. You are not alone in this. You are the focal point of a communal ritual, and their energy is now being offered to you as sustenance. A woman approaches, not the two-fuger's assistant, but an elder from the village. She holds a cup, not of water, but of a dark, herbal infusion. She helps you lift your head and brings the cup to your lips. The liquid is bitter and earthy, but as it slides down your throat, a subtle warmth spreads through your core, a small counterpoint to the cold fire on your back. It's a small act, but it's profoundly human. It's a reminder that your body needs care, not just endurance. This is the practical side of the community's support, the providing of water, of sustenance, of medicinal brews to keep your strength from failing completely. Historians still argue whether the presence of the community during these lengthy sessions was primarily for social reinforcement or if it was a form of collective spiritual labor, with the group's mana being pooled to support the recipient. In this moment, the distinction is meaningless. Their presence is a tangible force. You lock eyes with a young man about your age sitting at the edge of the circle. His own tattoos are fresh, still slightly raised and shiny. He gives you a slow, deliberate nod. It is a look of pure understanding, a silent communication that passes between veterans of the same war. He knows. He knows the exact texture of this pain, the taste of this fear, the depth of this exhaustion. And his nod says one thing: you will survive it. In some traditions, the very breath of the onlookers was believed to carry healing power, and their synchronized chanting could literally blow the pain away from the recipient. It doesn't blow the pain away, not even close, but it does something more important. It changes your relationship to it. The pain is no longer a private monster you are fighting alone in the dark. It is a public challenge you are being helped to overcome. The community's role is to bear witness and to lend you their collective spine when yours feels ready to snap. You take a deeper, more solid breath than you have in hours, and you lower your head back to the mat. The two-fuger's mallet continues its work, but now, you listen for the chant underneath it. The two-fuger works with a renewed, almost feverish intensity, as if he too can sense the approaching end. The pauses for wiping away blood and ink become shorter, the redipping of the AU more swift. He is in the final stages, connecting the last of the major patterns, filling in smaller background elements that make the primary symbols stand out in stark, raised relief. The pain is a constant, white-hot roar now, a landscape of agony you have become accustomed to inhabiting, but there is a new sensation threading through it, the electric anticipation of completion. Each tap of the mallet is one step closer to the end of this ordeal. You find yourself counting them down, not in a desperate way, but with a grim, determined focus. The chants of the community feel louder, more supportive, their energy funneling into you, giving you a second wind you did not think you possessed. He moves to the final, central motif, a large symbol positioned directly between your shoulder blades. It's a complex star, a representation of the sun, a symbol of life, leadership, and navigational certainty. This is the anchor of the entire piece, the focal point from which all other elements radiate. The teeth of the AU are positioned at its center. The first tap here feels different, more significant than all the thousands that came before it. This is the true beginning of the end. The sound of the mallet seems sharper, more resonant, as if the universe itself is leaning in to listen. Your entire being is focused on this small patch of skin, every nerve ending screaming in unified, final protest. He works with incredible precision, each tap perfectly placed to create the sharp, clean points of the star. Historians still argue whether the final stages of the tattoo were often completed in a single, marathon session or if the tufuga would sometimes deliberately slow the pace to maximize the psychological impact of the culmination. For you, there is no slowing. The pace is relentless, a final sprint after a marathon. The very last tap of the mallet would release a burst of spiritual energy that would seal the recipient's new identity, a metaphysical click as the final piece of the soul's new armor locked into place. You don't know about spiritual energy, but you can feel something shifting with each strike. The last connecting line is drawn. The final spearhead is defined. The tufuga leans in, his breath warm on your neck, as he places the AU for the final series of taps, a small cluster of dots that complete the sun's call. Tap. Thud. Tap. Thud. Tap. He lifts the mallet and the AU for the last time. The sudden, shocking silence is more deafening than the rhythm ever was. The final strokes are complete. The violent music of your transformation has ceased. The silence that follows the last tap is profound, a void where for hours there had been a relentless, percussive rhythm. It rings in your ears, a ghost of the pain. For a long moment, no one moves. The tufuga simply sits back on his heels, placing the blood and ink-stained tools carefully back on the bark cloth. He exhales, a long, slow breath that seems to carry the weight of the entire ritual. The community's chanting has softened to a hum, then faded into the night, their role as your spiritual scaffolding now complete. The assistant moves forward, not with a wipe, but with a bowl of clean salt water and soft cloths. Gently, he begins to wash your back. The first touch of the cool water on the ravaged, burning skin is a shock so intense it borders on pleasure, a sensation so starkly different from the hours of searing pain that it brings tears to your eyes that have nothing to do with suffering. He cleanses the area with a tender, respectful care, washing away the excess ink, the smeared blood, the sweat and the grime of the ordeal. As the mess is cleared, the true artwork is revealed for the first time. The skin beneath is a furious, swollen canvas of red and purple, but rising from the inflammation is the crisp, dark, incredibly detailed tapestry of the tattoo. It is complete. Every line the tufuga painted with his fingers has been faithfully, permanently carved into your being. The shark teeth look sharp enough to cut, the procession of anata seems to pulse with a life of their own, and the central sun radiates power from between your shoulder blades. This is the revelation. This is not a drawing on your skin, it is your skin now. It is a part of your body as fundamental as your own bones. You are helped into a sitting position, moving slowly, gingerly, as if your body is a fragile, priceless artifact. Someone holds a polished bronze mirror behind you, allowing you to see the full, breathtaking scope of the work. The sight steals what little breath you have left. It is brutal. It is beautiful. It is immense. A mainstream historical fact you can now appreciate on a visceral level is that these tattoos were considered a person's second skin, their true social and spiritual skin, and to be without them was to be naked in a way that had nothing to do with clothing. A perfectly executed tattoo, when first revealed, was said to have a faint, ethereal glow for a few moments, a visible manifestation of the mana now residing within the wearer. You don't see a glow, but you feel one, a warmth that is different from the inflammation, a deep, humming energy that seems to emanate from the patterns themselves. The two-fuger looks at you, and for the first time, you see something other than solemn purpose in his eyes. You see satisfaction. The revelation is not just for you, it is for him as well. His work is done, and it is perfect. The initial, stunned silence gives way to a soft, rising murmur of approval from the community. Their faces, which before held the focused intensity of witnesses, now soften into smiles and nods of respect. You are no longer the outsider undergoing a trial. You are one of them, marked, proven, and transformed. The two-fuger himself reaches out, but this time his touch is not to assess or to cause pain. He lays his hand flat and gently on the completed tattoo on your shoulder, his palm warm against the inflamed skin. It is a gesture of transfer, of blessing. It is the final seal on his work. In that touch, you feel the last of the ordeal's violence dissipate, replaced by a profound and settling sense of rightness. The pain, while still a very present and throbbing reality, is now the foundation of this new identity, not its enemy. You are helped to your feet. Your legs are weak, trembling from hours of tension and trauma. Every movement sends fresh, bright reminders of the work done to your back, but there is a new strength in your core, a solidity you didn't possess before. You stand, fully upright, on the shoreline where you began this journey. The ocean is still there, breathing its same eternal rhythm, but you are not the same person who trudged across this sand. That person was a collection of potential, of unproven spirit. You are now a document, a living history. The new self emerges not with a shout, but with a slow, dawning realization that settles deep into your bones. The symbols on your skin are no longer just art, they are a responsibility. The shark teeth demand you be strong. The linktenata remind you of your duty to community. The sun between your shoulders is a compass, guiding you forward. Historians still argue whether the primary function of these tattoos was social, serving as a public CV, or spiritual, acting as a permanent conduit for divine protection and ancestral connection. Standing here, feeling the weight and the power of the marks, you understand it was never an either-or proposition. The social and the spiritual are the same thread in this tapestry. The true tattoo was not the visible ink, but the invisible map of pain the recipient had to navigate. The visible marks were simply the proof that the journey had been completed. You have the proof, both visible and invisible. The new self that emerges is a fusion of who you were and the story now told on your skin, a story of endurance, of lineage, and of a painful, beautiful becoming under the master's hand and the watchful eyes of a community on a dark, starlit shore. The community begins to disperse, their quiet conversations fading back towards the flickering lights of the village, leaving you alone with the two-fuger and the endless, whispering ocean. The adrenaline that has been propping you up finally ebbs, and a deep, soul-level exhaustion takes its place. It is not a weakness, but a heavy, satisfying fatigue, the kind earned after a monumental task is complete. The two-fuger gathers his tools, wrapping them carefully in the bark cloth, a ritual in its own right. He looks at you one last time, and gives a final, slow nod, a gesture of dismissal and of completion. His work is done. Your work, the work of living into this new skin, is just beginning. You turn from him and take your first steps away from the shoreline, each footfall on the cool sand a conscious, grounding act. The walk back is different. The pain is a fierce, burning cloak around your shoulders, but you wear it differently now. It is no longer an assault, it is a reminder. With every twinge, every throb, you remember a line, a symbol, a moment of surrender and endurance. The night air feels different against your skin, the salt breeze a constant, cooling balm on the fiery tapestry of your back. You don't need a mirror to see the design. You can feel its entire topography mapped out in raised, inflamed skin, a tactile memory of the journey. You are a walking story, and the weight of that story is immense, but it is a weight you now feel strong enough to carry. You have been unmade and remade on a mat of woven leaves, and the person returning to the world is fundamentally, irrevocably altered. As you approach the outskirts of the village, the reality of the aftermath begins to settle. The true healing is yet to come. The skin will itch and peel, the swelling will subside, the vivid, angry colors of trauma will slowly fade into the deep, blue-green legacy of the ink beneath the skin. The memory of the pain will soften, blurring at the edges, but it will never truly leave you, just as the marks will never leave your skin. They will become a part of your personal folklore, a story you will carry forever. You find your way to a simple hut, and as you lower yourself onto a mat to finally rest, the full, staggering scope of the last several hours washes over you. You survived. You did not just survive, you were transformed. The gentle process was many things: intimate, brutal, spiritual, painful, but above all, it was a threshold. You crossed it. And as you close your eyes, the rhythmic crash of the waves is no longer the sound of the ordeal, but the lullaby of your new beginning, a soothing, eternal whisper against the fresh, living history of your skin. And so, as the final image of that starlit shore fades from your mind, let the weight of that transformation settle not as a burden, but as a gentle reminder of the resilience that sleeps within you. The pain has been washed away by the ocean's breath, leaving only the quiet, profound strength of a story owned and an identity claimed. The waves continue their endless, soothing rhythm, a constant in a world of change, just as the core of who you are remains, now beautifully, permanently illustrated. Let the memory of the tapping mallet soften into a distant, rhythmic echo, a far-off drum that once measured a great becoming, but now only marks the peaceful, steady beat of your own heart as you drift towards sleep. Your journey is complete, your new skin a testament to endurance, and the world feels still, and calm, and deeply, deeply quiet.